All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Kathy Lee. I head the Media, Entertainment, and Sport platform at the forum. Today with me are two very distinguished speakers. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute. But thank you very much for being here. We know it's very early. David, would you like to? Erica?
Erica.
Okay, shall I start? Great. Good morning, and thank you for having me here. My name is Erica Alessandri, and I'm a member of the board at Technogym, which is a leader in gym equipment and digital solutions for health, sports performance, and fitness. I also oversee all the digital side and especially the consumer side. We have an ecosystem with content, smart equipment, apps, and software. So thank you.
Thanks, Erica. David?
And good morning. My name is David Kenning. I'm the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Nielsen. Nielsen, of course, is the leader in most countries at measuring the media, measuring what consumers are watching. And of course, sports is very high on that list. And we do that across all digital platforms as well as linear. And then we have a second business called Gracenote within Nielsen, which is the metadata to help people find things on streaming. And sports has also been growing there as we've helped sports figures develop their online personality and be able to be found when people are searching for sports information. And platforms like Google and Hulu and Amazon Prime use Gracenote to help people navigate to all things media, including sports.
Thanks, David and Erica. So for today's session, 30 minutes, we will have Erica and David to share more about the economics in sports. You know, we just finished the World Cup, one of the biggest success in sports histories. And we also wanted to touch on the social impact when it comes to sports as well. And then after that, we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. So David, I would like to start with you. Sports has always been a form of media and entertainment that captures most imagination, most enthusiasm. People just love sports. Can you tell us, what is this, value chain in sports? How does, media rights, what kind of role of media rights plays now in this, for example, the cross-platform streaming? All of the streaming platforms are probably going to bet on sports as next step. What's going to happen to TV? Anything you can share, that would be great.
Oh, there's so much to cover, but I think sport is the most important media format today, and it's what people are counting on. So if I give an example, in the United States, in 2022, 93 of the top 100 programs of the year were sport. And 80 some of those were the NFL, 3 were World Cup games, 1 was the Kentucky Derby. And so, and it's growing. And I would say the value of sport is increasing much faster than the value of media overall. The reason for that is the fragmentation of entertainment. So as more and more consumption is viewed on demand on a streaming platform, and streaming is now bigger than cable in most markets, that means that you don't all watch the same program. There isn't as much cultural connectiveness in entertainment. News, live breaking news will get a good audience when it's really interesting, but that's also become more fragmented and more opinion-based. So if you really want to unite society, if you really want to get the right and the left to do something together, if you really want to build a brand that covers the population, you really only have one option, which is sport. And because sport is in demand and it's watched live, it also is the primary reason that people take a subscription. So it's the reason that the cable model stays alive, basically, is when it has sport. However, we're now seeing in a number of countries, Amazon, Apple, most recently YouTube, all bid for the sports rights, bid more than the traditional platforms. And we believe this is going to shift the subscription revenue. It's certainly going to create competition. And it's going to shift the subscription revenue even further towards streaming. So sport is really the kingmaker of media, is the short answer. For these reasons, it's the one media format that unites people en masse.
Thanks, David. I do have a follow-up question to that, but first of all, I wanted to turn to Erica. tell us more about the role of technology plays in sports development.
Well, definitely technology is very important on different sides. First of all, in terms of the preparation, so you can leverage AI, for example, and tracking insights data to enhance the performance and really and also deliver personalized training programs, both for the athletes but also for amateurs. What we're seeing in the consumer space is that more and more, I mean, sports in general is a lifestyle and it's a great tool to improve health. And what we're seeing is that more and more consumers are joining vertical communities, such as, for example, cycling, running, triathlon. And so it's also very important for them to live a better life through sport. And in this sense, technology obviously helps them. We can, for example, through our ecosystem, really follow end-to-end our end users with an AI-powered digital trainer to really create a precision training, so personalized training programs and data. And on the other side, as we know, and sport is really aspirational, so thanks to technology, you can connect users to their favorite champions. And for example, we created training programs with athletes and coaches of athletes and really connect them and let consumers train like their favorite champions. So this is also a great way to create an emotional connection between consumers and athletes. And then, I mean, there is also, we see a lot of trends, for example, with augmented and virtual reality, so to include gamification in the preparation around sports performance. And I mean, there are really many applications in this sense.
So I have the Technogym app, and I want to say that even if you are not athletic and you're an old person, you can still feel like a champion thanks to Erica.
Thank you.
It's a great app. Really well
Thanks.
done.
So Erica, on that, because generative AI has been one of the most popular topics recently, the best joke I heard yesterday at dinner table was, if you ask ChatGPT a question, should I have burger or, I guess, goulash for dinner? And then the bot will return and say, why don't you eat something healthy? Is that what you see? Why don't you eat something healthier? Is that where you see what you see in terms of the roles of AI will play going forward? Not only, be able to predict the audience, the users, their habits, their preference, but be able to really make recommendations based on other data sets as well.
Yes, definitely. I mean, predictability is one of the main outputs of this technology. So thanks to the data, you're able to really also tailor the program based on the user's performance, and this helps in terms of exercising to achieve superior results faster, but then also to really help with the behavioral change. So, I mean, it is definitely something that it's a great potential. So, for example, on the Technogym app, we developed this AI-powered digital trainer that not only recommends your daily workout based on your goals, your level, how you performed in the previous session, but also follows you 360 degrees, whether you want to improve just your fitness or enhance your sports skills or improve your health, and really suggest, for example, the right nutrition tips based on your goals, or if you need to take a moment to, for example, to practice some mindfulness and so on. So this is like a holistic approach is definitely the way forward, not only in fitness, but also in sports performance, and we've seen this a lot. And if you think about 20, 30 years ago, athletes weren't even really exercising so much, or there wasn't a very structured, let's say, protocol, and how far we've come today. All of nutrition, exercise, and mindfulness are three pillars that are very, very important. So,
can I broaden on that? Because since you brought up generative AI, I think generative AI is reflective of a trend we've been seeing for a while about machine-generated information, and I think further and further concerns about what is true and what is generated. This is a general problem, and that people aren't sure what's the truth anymore. There are people in America, people in Brazil who don't even believe their elections. This is something all of us in media are concerned about. The reason I come back to sport is one place where everyone does agree on rules. People respect referees. People respect a way of getting to the truth, and they know that sport won't work without it. And so I think it's in that context, sport and sport athletes and teams and all of us who are going to have a real responsibility to extend from that to the rest of society, that rules are not constraining. It is actually important that there be real news, not fake news. It is important that we have a shared sense of truth. If we have a shared sense of understanding around rules and referees, we can extend that to a broader set. So it's why, it's a broader mission, but it's why when we're working with sports owners and sports leagues and advertisers who sponsor, we're on this point of this is probably the best environment to create trust, because trust is why sport works.
Well said, David. I do want to come back to the earlier question on business model. Sports as a business model hasn't changed in decades. Buying media rights and advertising base a lot of the times. Do you think this is going to happen now with the landscape of media changing? Yes, streaming platforms are bidding on sports rights, but sports mean very different things to streaming platforms sometimes compared to the traditional TV. Where do you see the economic model is going?
Well, I don't think we'll ever walk away from a foundation of sports rights because they're so scarce. And as I've been describing, they are more unique than ever in the ability to unite people, get respect for rules, and build brands. So I think that sponsors are going to want them and they're going to continue. And I would also say in the streaming platforms, so we measure Thursday Night Football at Amazon Prime in the U.S., and it was a big $11 billion investment. What's interesting is how many people joined Amazon Prime as a subscriber. More people were joining because of Thursday Night Football than because of shopping events. Mm-hmm. So it works. So I think this is still a good investment. I think that they will find they made a good return. I think YouTube will find a good return. So it's a foundation. There's more to be made on top of that. Some things I like are when the sponsorships extend, as she was describing, into personal experiences so that you have a more personalized association. You begin to build fans and fan clubs and connect to your training. So that's a second level of licensing for both the players and coaches and the owners. Yeah. And then a big thing around the world is betting. And now on a connected television, because a streaming platform or a connected cable platform look the same to the consumer. In both these cases, you can actually find betting growing as a category as well, which is another whole revenue stream. So, and sponsors are going to continue to pay more for advertising on sport than anything. So there's so many things that favor it. I think it's just very important that you measure the impression and measure the output well, because it's going to become the biggest investment for any CMO.
Yeah, I can imagine. So Erica, related question, because you also spoke about the user segmentation, in a great way, because now you can find your own fan club, and that's enabled by technology. And you mentioned VR, AR as well, as you know that the world has again been captured by the phrase the metaverse. What kind of role do you think AR, VR technology will play in the future of sports?
Well, there are definitely, what we've seen, at least in our space, is that they're a great tool, again, to really connect these communities and allow you to, for example, work out, share this experience when you cannot physically connect with people, so create groups. And we've seen it, for example, in the cycling and the running communities. So that's definitely something that enhances this sense of belonging because it allows you also when, for example, whether it's the weather that doesn't allow it, or you live in a place where you cannot work out, you can replicate, for example, certain paths and segments and do it with friends despite not being together. So it's both connecting the community and gamifying, so entertainment, making it fun, and really like play a game, right, in a sense, which makes everything more pleasant. So this is what we've seen in our specific side. With the metaverse, obviously today it is still, in terms of sports performance, it can be seen more as also entertainment, I believe. It is still a bit harder also with virtual reality, for example, because obviously headsets are not ideal, let's say, for long training. It would be very tough to run on a treadmill, for example,
Dangerous.
with a VR headset. So we will see where the technology, how it will evolve and how it can be applied. For now, it's more augmented reality, I would say. That is what is really a tangible trend.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, the vision of the metaverse is not to take you away from your own reality, but add the, you know, another layers of reality in front. And with the technology, I can advancing, I can imagine that will happen at some point. Before we shift gear, anything else we wanted to speak to in terms of sports business model, economic model?
Well, I think the other thing I would say is, given how expensive it is, the creation of additional sports inventory, I think, is going to be important. You know, I just came from India, where I see everything they're doing with the India Premier League, what they're doing with the football teams in Italy and France and the UK, making sure that these are building more audiences and that you've got your local audiences building up, I think, is key. To me, the other thing that could vastly increase the economics and be good for the world is to double down on sports that feature women. The gender inequality is enormous, and let me tell you, women's sports are just as interesting, just as athletic, and can bring people in. And so we're beginning to see movement, but I certainly hope we see, as the prices get higher, that people find an umbrella to build new things with much better economics for women's sports as well, and for local leagues, because I think this could really help us to double the amount of capacity or inventory there and keep the economics manageable.
Yeah, so that's a nice bridge into, you know, the next topic we wanted to touch on, the social impact of sports on society. At the forum, we launched the Power Media, you know, representation and diversity across different sectors that indexed together with Nielsen and Ipsos last year, and we wanted to continue that as well. And we did look at the sports sector in terms of the gender and representation. And David, you mentioned about, you know, building better economics. Other than that, is there anything else we can do to increase representation in sports?
Well, for sure.
And media in general?
Yeah, I mean, you have to start by measuring it and be accountable for it, and I think you've got to start with sponsors actually caring about it. So I think the work we did last year, we're continuing to push those metrics, which I think are super important. I think it's also important that the leagues themselves actually, and in America, I look at what the NBA has done with the WNBA. The more sports leagues and teams speak up for this, the more they're looking not just at the players on the field, but at the coaches and the staff, and making sure that you've really got gender representation and racial representation, the better. So I think there does need to be leadership on it from the media owners and from those who are buying the rights. I think they need to insist on it, and the advertisers can insist as well. So there is a lot of economic pressure they can make. Of course, it's a good thing to do, but I do find people do more when the money's at stake. And I absolutely believe if you want to build a brand in the next 5 to 10 years, standing for a brand that really is aligned with representation and inclusion and gender equality is going to be a more successful, more sustainable brand than one that is not.
Erica, sports, what other social issues can sports tackle?
I mean, as we have been talking up until now, sports is obviously a massive opportunity to advance different agendas in terms of inclusion, social cohesion, health even. We know that today, I mean, sports people have an incredible power to share ideas and opinions, and we've seen this in different matters, so definitely should be really a platform, a powerful platform for all of these different issues. For example, I mean, for us, aside from Technogym, we have the Wellness Foundation, which is our non-profit body, and we believe that through sports, you can really educate from a very young age children, for example, to help them live healthier lifestyles when they're older adults. For example, it is a great school to learn about teamwork, about discipline, what we were saying before, rules. So there is really, there are a variety of different opportunities in the social aspect and the impact that sports can do. And we've seen this trend also with larger scale events such as the Olympic Games, for example. We've been the official suppliers to the last 8 Olympic Games, and especially since London 2012, the question of how to leave a legacy has become more and more important, because obviously these events let's say, have a significant impact on the economics of a country, for example, and the question is, what is happening after? So for what we've been doing, one of the reasons why we've also been selected by the Olympic Committee is not only for our technical competencies, but also because we were able to present projects to leave a legacy after, so to leverage these events to help. We have a social campaign which is called Let's Move for a Better World that we have declined in the different countries. So for example, in Rio, we did Let's Move for Rio, where we engaged not only the athletes, but also the citizens and the tourists to move and collect moves, which is a unit of measure of movement. And then we donated over 500 pieces of equipment from the different facilities that we installed within the Olympic Village to underprivileged communities, and in particular to community centers for children to be able to train and to get closer to sports. So this is one of the many examples that of how sport can really do good as well.
Yeah, wonderful example. So, David, you said, sports in terms of media ecosystem, in terms of content, they are the kingmaker. But we are also facing, an increasingly young generation consuming content. They're on TikTok, they're on the platforms that I don't even know. My kids already 2 and 5 can already navigate, very seamlessly, within the digital ecosystem. Are you worried? Let me put it this way. What are the better ways to engage younger generation when it comes to, consuming sports and participating in sports?
Well, I do think it starts in school. It is important that physical education be a part of the education process. I'm grateful for the donation of equipment, not just in Olympic cities, but throughout the U.S. We find Technogym in a number of places. And there are many other things we can do that are not as elite, but I think insisting on physical education in schools around the world is key, because you start by actually learning it yourself. I do not see a generational change. We see the engagement of young people in sport continuing to be as high as ever. It's something that is very aspirational. However, I do think smart programmers are combining the broadcast of the sport event with a lot of social media, including TikTok, including what they're using Instagram for, to engage people between the games and even create co-experiences during the games. There was a lot of really interesting things that were going on conversationally during the World Cup games, which were fascinating. So I actually think it enhances the experience. I think embracing it is good. But to me, social media isn't the way to get people engaged in sports. It adds to the experience. The way to get people engaged in sports is somewhat through good stories, but really through getting them exposed to physical education from the time they are, 4 or 5 years old.
Erica, anything to add?
I mean, as I was saying before, obviously it's there are different initiatives also to help kids approaching sports. So for example, even just by playing and organizing within schools. I mean, I know in the US the system is a bit different, but for example in Italy we only have 2 hours of physical education per week. So let's say if you want to approach sports and start let's say in a less amateur way, it has to be really your family that pushes you, or I mean you have to organize it for yourself. You don't really have so there, I mean, it is very important also for the institutions to really push this, because obviously, I mean, we're seeing, for example, in the health space, we're facing a very big issue, which are chronic diseases, and these are all lifestyle manageable. So it is very important to use sports and gamifying it, and having kids approaching it from even like 1, 2, 3 years old through games, to really create a strong mindset and a strong culture in this sense. So this is what we've seen.
Thanks, Erica. We've got 5 minutes left. I just wanted to see if there's any questions in the room. Please.
Hi. I was just wondering whether you had, in your experience, whether there was any sport that was really managing to drive its audience well. Who are the standouts? I mean, I've got the impression that Formula One have done it fantastically and have breakout films and, included social media and so on. Is that correct numerically?
It is correct numerically. Formula One has done a great job building an audience and keeping people engaged. Say another one is the NBA. And I think what the NBA done is particularly well is work in urban areas where folks were not necessarily getting physical education, finding other ways to inspire people and keep people engaged beyond the season. I think they're particularly good at using the celebrity of their players to reach personally as well, and really work as a team to make that happen. So I'm super excited about that. I think IPL in India is really doing a lot, and boy, they're using everything, because the people of India are very heterogeneous, and so adapting to languages, adapting to things that work well on a mobile phone as well as on a big screen, I think is being very inclusive, and for all the things that go on in the complicated country of India, the IPL brings everyone together. So I think you even talk to politicians in India, sport really matters. So I think that's another really great example. These take really good commissioners, they take really good focus from the top, and they take real vision, as you started with, from a real vision about using all the different touch points to bring people together.
Lady in the back.
Hi. I'd like to ask how the two of you see esports in the context of what we've been discussing, because a lot of the young generation is actually not going out to play physical sport, but engaging in esports. So how do we combine some of the things that you've been talking about today with that?
I mean, it is a very big trend, obviously. We've seen that the community is growing exponentially. Many brands are also starting to sponsor esports and so on. I mean, it's very complicated, obviously, because there are both positives and negatives to it. For us, what's really important in general, also as a mission of the company, is that people keep on moving, because we know that exercise has is really a medicine, is a powerful tool for prevention and even cure, let's say, of lifestyle illnesses, mental health, and so on. So the line is fine. I mean, it can open the demand to a bigger crowd, but also push away from the actual exercise. So
Yeah, I would say the same. I mean, as a media property, it's growing, and it's a great place to build brands. And as I said, the cost of sport is so high, people are looking for more places to sponsor. So we certainly see it growing. We measure it well. I don't think it stops. And as the metaverse becomes more prevalent, I think eSport also continues to grow. I'm hopeful that it takes away from other entertainment. People do spend 4 or 5 hours a day on passive entertainment in the world. I'd hate for it to take away from physical activity. I mean, it doesn't really get your heart rate up. It doesn't build functional strength. So we just think it'd be important that it be in context. Some of the esports programmers that we work with, I am encouraging them to actually find some messages that encourages people to actually do this for real. Some are doing that, others are not. But certainly as a business, as a media, it's a growing and very interesting category.
I think it does get your heart rate up. It's just different ways. Any other questions?
I don't think it makes you as healthy as playing. I'm with her.
All right, if no more questions, thank you so much for being here today, and enjoy the rest of your time in Davos. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.